Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Peter Abraham. I'm a second career registered nurse focused in the area of advanced illness. Typically, those are the ones qualifying for palliative care or hospice care. Those are two separate services. I'm also a certified end-of-life doula through the International Doula Life Movement, one of their part-time instructors in charge of the continuing education development program, as well as course development for crucial end-of-life conversations. A class, 16 weeks, 48 hours a day. Hope to be teaching January through April in 2026. If you're new to this channel, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to visit. In this channel, we talk about issues related to death and dying. After all, we are all going to die. Shouldn't we be prepared for this? I'll have video discussions for my fellow hospice and palliative care nurses, for my fellow end-of-life doulas, for families, caregivers, and for patients, depending on the circumstance. If there's a topic you would like me to cover in a future episode, please comment below. If these are topics that you like, please consider subscribing, hitting the bell notification below. I'm trying to publish videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with occasional gardening updates or house project updates along the way. The topic for today's video is going to be three-pronged, all dealing with my fellow end-of-life doulas. The first topic is that we're going to talk about is doula schools for getting training, aka certification. The next is going to be business. The last is going to be marketing. I'm hoping to keep things tight. Before we go on to the topic of today's discussion, those three areas, let's take a moment to ask, what are you grateful for? So when you work in the field of death and dying, it's very common to face burnout. In the primary hospice nursing support group that I participate in Facebook, two separate individuals were putting in questions, how do you deal when everyone around you is dying, day in and day out? Very valid question. I believe that if we build resilience, it's something that we have a measure of as a person, but I believe it's something that we could build upon, that we can handle various tragedies, including death and dying, far better. To me, there are three pillars of resilience. We work on the third pillar here in this channel. What are you grateful for? Expressions of gratitude. If you have a grateful heart, it's harder to be pushed down. The other two pillars that we don't touch on a lot, second pillar is forgiveness. If you have a forgiving heart, forgiving everyone, and it's about you, not them, but that's its own story, because that, I find, can be very hard for people to deal with. I already had a client in India that I was helping through a lot of situations, both with grief, well, anticipatory grief, grief after the death, the whole transition of life and death. And the moment I was sharing that forgiveness is necessary for complete healing, she walked away. She's welcome back, but I know that it's hard. So that's why I ask people in this channel, what are you grateful for? So for me, while this is being filmed in advance of an event that's going to be taking place on August 12th, I'm grateful for the opportunity to walk through a healthy aging event in Richmond, where I hope to be meeting different vendors and passing out my cards. This hasn't happened yet, but I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm grateful for the afternoon of August 12th, if it doesn't get rescheduled one more time. But even if it does, this is part of life. It's messy. But I'll be working with doing a complete and thorough living will. I'm grateful for Pam Carter and my classmates for the class with International Life Movements, where I graduate October 23rd. I'll get a certificate in specialized advanced life planning. But even though I'm not yet graduated, that's going to be part of the business discussion, I'm out there and I'm marketing and I'm advertising, and I have the foundation to complete everything, even though I'm not yet certified. So let's get on to the topic. There's three areas I want to hit today. The first is when we talk about certifications in the schools that are out there. The second is going to be dealing with business, and the third marketing. So dealing with the schools. First off, the end of life doulas, death doulas, whatever phrase you want to call us. I refer to myself as a life transition support guide or a life transition coach. It is an unregulated industry. So that means there's no local, state, or federal guidelines. Schools can pop up out of the woodwork without any real curriculum, not battle tested in any way, not reviewed by anyone, sell a product or a service, say that you're certified, and you are, but the level of quality that you receive, no. And so that's why I encourage everyone looking at schooling, because I do believe certification is important. It means that you graduated. It's not the same thing as a certified nursing assistant that every state has regulations. It's a governing body. It's not, certainly not when I went for my registered nurse. That's both, accredited schools, governing body. And most places that teach CNAs, if it's coming from a school, are accredited. I still remember when Noel, one of my favorite friends, oh, I know you're not supposed to have favorites, but one of my, I should say long-term friends, that might be a better way to word it than favorite. Um, he was one of my professors at Harrisburg Area Community College, and he worked with a university in PA to create a CNA program. It's accredited, governing body. So with the schools, you need to do their homework. There's many types that are out there. There are those like the International Life Movement that I cannot endorse enough. Anna Adams, the founder, she was actually featured. She not only is an end-of-life doula, but she works as an end-of-life doula for two different hospice agencies. I only recommend that, by the way, for those looking to be a doula, if you have a strong background in being a doula, because there are caveats, and it would be the first person to talk to about that. But I'm just reading here, Passion Hospice in Texas actually featured her on their webpage. Meet the Passion team, and it was talking about Anna Adams, end-of-life doula. 25 years, and has been working to raise the bar for end-of-life care for 25 years. She founded the International Life Movement in 2001. And as of the date of this filming, I'm filming this on Thursday, September 11th, 2025, over 2,000 graduates worldwide. It is an international school, 2,000 graduates worldwide. So with the International Dual Life Movement, what makes them extremely different than every other school out there are several things. One, they have on-site classes in different states. So I'll include a link in the description below. But if you go to the website, internationaldoulalifemovement.com, I know that's a mouthful. You were to go there and you look up courses, you'll see that there's Texas, there's New Jersey. I don't have all the states memorized. My short-term memory is like this. But you can take live classes, and depending on the state that you go to for these live classes, you're going to be working with a hospice. You're going to be working with people who are actually on hospice and facing death. Hands-on experience, unbelievably valuable. They also offer live classes through Google Meet. And what I like is I went through the live class program because in Kentucky, there's not yet an on-site option. And Anna and I are talking that I don't know if it'll be 2026 or 2027. And I don't even know if it'll be in Madison County. It might be something that I have to travel for in terms of being one of the teachers. It might be in Louisville or somewhere in between. But we're looking at having on-site classes in Kentucky. But I went live with Google Meet. And the benefit of live, if you can't do on-site, it's not a dry, pre-recorded webinar that will be out of date within months to a year or two. It is interactive. And with the International Life Movement, at the end of every cohort, think of a cohort like a university semester, so to speak, or set of semesters. I'm not sure what words would work best. But at the end of every course, they do a debrief. What do we need to do better? Anne is constantly raising the bar. She specifically told me that when I create, and I finished a draft framework for crucial end-of-life discussions based on my book. I'll include the link in the description below. Make sure that there are case studies. Make sure that there are tests that really push them. Because when you're a death doula, an end-of-life doula, you are working with people who are dying. And even if you're like me, where I'm trying to catch them 18, 19, 20s in their 30s, and they're healthy, they can be going through serious life events, and you need to be able to handle that. You need to be able to handle that. Because even death doulas face death and tragedy in their lives. And unless you have the proper training and building resilience, you could end up where you start your business and then say, I can't do this anymore. And that's sad and it's tragic. And it's happening worldwide. Because there are schools out there that are either it's a weekend retreat, or it's a go out for an evening. And sometimes this could be, somebody posted in the one end-of-life group, oh, it's only $95. I can't afford all these other courses. And I'm not trying to, this is where it gets difficult for me, because I'm not sure how to present the information in a way that would not offend, because I don't like offending. I always want to be gentle. But if you're just chasing the cheapest options, you may get what you're paying for, and you're only hurting yourself, and then you're potentially misrepresenting yourself to your clients. And then on top of it, what's happening industry-wide for end-of-life doulas is hospice providers are you can't, how to phrase this, you can't determine in advance when a hospice provider hooks up with a doula that they were a properly trained doula in an unregulated, unaccredited field. It's I don't believe in rolling the dice, but more often than not, they're picking up on people because of geography and everything else. They're not properly trained, and then end-of-life doulas get a bad name because of one person or two persons or three that went to a school that maybe they should have not went to, or maybe they went to a good school, but they didn't take it seriously enough. It goes both ways. And then they're not presenting the information correctly. And the next thing you know, the hospital is saying, we'll do this ourselves, even if it's not as good as we can. So in terms of schools, International Life Movement, there's the INELDA, the International End of Life Doula Association. NEED is independent. NEED can get free certification. I've talked to that before. But the catch with doing it that route, and if you're desperate, go that route. And I'm not saying desperate in terms of being bad, because I was actually telling people go that route if you need certification. But the catch is they have a self-study guide that is not the same as a school. I have books on how to become a death doula that's more comprehensive than a study guide. But even with my books, I state that they're not a replacement for a good school. Now, there are other schools that try very hard to keep up to date. I know there's Casey that has, I think hers is literally called the Death Doula School. But she will be the first to say that if she, because she doesn't do live, and I don't know if she does in person, but she tries to keep them up to date. I can't speak for a lot of others. I know there's University of Vermont, but even with these, from talking to Anna and some other parties, a lot of the other schools will actually copy from the International Life Movement. For instance, the International Life Movement was the first school to require that you get so many continuing education credits per every 2 years to maintain certification. And the classes for those are free. So you want to do your homework for picking a school. Now, let's say, because I'm a stranger to you, potentially, depending on your point of view, Peter, I want to do my own homework. So here's what I recommend, because I actually love people who do their own homework. I wish more people would do their own homework. So, number one, you want to have a discovery call with the founder. Most of the schools will allow you to have discovery calls with the founder. And in that discovery call, you want to ask some deep questions. What motivated them to start the school? How long have they been practicing as an end-of-life doula? If they say that they're no longer practicing, that they're just teaching, it's not necessarily bad. It's not necessarily bad, but they should go lower on the scale because, for instance, every instructor at the International Life Movement is out there. They either have clients or they're trying to get clients. They are actively marketing their business and they're active. They're mentoring. They're active. So what was their motivation? How long have they been doing this? How extensive is their program? When they talk about going over end of life, have them walk you through it. And part of the reason that I ask this is there's a school I'm not going to name. When you ask, when the founder, who is a former hospice and palliative care registered nurse of some renown, famous from a point of view, when she describes the dying process, it's not the dying process. She's describing emotional impacts, which do matter. I don't want to discount that. But if that's all you're learning and you're there in person witnessing somebody dying and you don't know the physical signs and symptoms of death, you don't know the signs and symptoms of transitioning, the signs and symptoms of active dying, the clues that are coming that they could be going any moment now. If you're in the midst of that, are you going to panic and run out? There's a nursing student I put in a previous episode, not an end-of-life doula, but a nursing student who was a volunteer during continuous care event where the hospice nurse was in charge. Student couldn't take it anymore, and they ran out. You're going to be that person. Ask for references. People who have graduated and actually working in the field. So you want that reference. You want another reference for recent graduates to find out how was the program and how are they doing at starting their business. And you want current references for students taking the course now. And then call them. Don't be like some businesses that collect the references and don't check them. Call them and ask them questions. Did you feel prepared? Because that person that I mentioned that goes over the emotional angles, I found out from another school who knows more about what was going on there is how many refund requests that they get. Because those students don't feel prepared. They don't feel prepared. So you want to do your homework. Now, moving on to the business end, and the last two components are going to be, I'm trying to watch the time with this. So on the business end, I encourage you to have a curious mind. I encourage you, even if you're like me, I am an introvert. I get shy under stress. I am also autistic on they used to call it Asperger's. I don't know if I'd be under that because I was never formally tested and sometimes I get flack on that, but I don't have several $1,000s to get testing done that's going to do what? And but I have panic attacks, and so I try to practice what I preach. I try to practice. I try to lead by example. So get out there. I was talking to a relatively new end of life doula in Lexington, Kentucky, today, the date of this filming, and sharing, get out there. And I welcome her because even though she's within about an hour from where I practice, she's not competition. We're collaborative partners. There's enough people dying, and on top of that, not everybody's going to want me. Either A, they don't want a guy. I get that a lot as a male nurse. Maybe they don't want a man. I'm also a follower of Christ Jesus, and I don't hide that. So maybe they don't want somebody that has a strong Christian faith. Maybe they want somebody that's going to nod yes and say that it's okay. Now, just as I go into this, by the way, I don't judge. I don't judge. It's up to God as to who goes to heaven or hell. I know what the rules are, but I don't judge because I am not him. But if somebody asks me very pointed questions about how I feel about certain ideologies, I do my best to be intellectually, emotionally, etc., transparent and honest. So some people may not want me, even though I would serve them to the best of my abilities, without judgment at all. I've handed cigarettes to lung cancer patients who wanted a cigarette before they died, and I'm allergic to cigarettes and I hate them. But that's what they wanted. So I may not be a fit. So if there's more competition, even in Madison County, Kentucky, in Fayette County, which is where Lexington fits within, it's not competition, it's more collaborative partners. Hey, we can get together and do a 2 or 3 or 4, whether it be, I wouldn't use the word death over dinner. A lot of these organizations are creating copyrights and trademarks and other things that are very restrictive to those just want to educate, educate, educate. But I reached out and said, well, actually, she reached out to me. We had a conversation and I emailed her back because even on the phone call conversation, let's get together in October or later this year and let's put on a community presentation. And when I emailed her, and this is part of my weirdness, I don't mind if I'm invisible and I don't mind if I'm visible. I've had cases where people ask for people to speak up and I'm waiting and nobody's speaking up. And even though internally I might be, oh, I'm going to speak up if it's something that needs to be spoken out about. So I don't have to have limelight, is the bottom line. So she leads, the person that I talk to, she leads. It might be a joint effort. Don't know. We collaborate. That's how you build your business. And this is part of the marketing too. When we talk about marketing, is get out there. So in terms of some last minute tips, one, and Casey, thank you so much. Casey's the founder of the Death Doula School. And Anna Adams may have mentioned this too as well, but my short-term memory is like this. But talk to become friends with the hospital social workers. I learned, talk to elder law attorneys. Go to the business breakfast, and this is what the tip from Anna, go to the business breakfasts and luncheons. Get out there in the community you want to serve, as awkward as it is. And be prepared that most of the time, a lot of the business breakfasts are either A, they have too many people to show up and all they ask you to do is say your name and the company and then zip. And other times the name of your name, the name of your company, and literally a one-liner or a two-liner, but keep it very, very short. But as you go, what ends up happening, and this has been happening to me, I started going in May of 2025. We're now in September 2025. I have more and more people coming up to me after each one that I go to. Tell me more. And for the one event, I had the owner who runs the event come up to me and say, Peter, can you speak on October about end of life doula, what I do, my RN concierge service, what I do, and integrate it in Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I'm like, wow, what an excellent segue. And so I'm the obsessive compulsive planner, so I already have that. It was told keep it to 10 to 15 minutes. But I already have that done along with the handout, I should say 2 handouts I'm going to have in addition to brochures and cards. So by going and being consistently showing up, you get the opportunity to do more and more and get known in your community. And then people reach out to you. And as you are transparent, you'll grow, you'll bloom. Last minute advice that comes to mind from the phone call this morning with the new death doula in the Lexington area. She wants to focus on being a companion doula. That is perfectly fine. This is an industry where you get to pick what niche of the wide industry you want to be in. So for me, I'm going for what I didn't come up with this term, but what just came to mind is like full metal jacket. I'm not a birth doula. I'm not a birth doula, but I'm going to whole life spectrum from 18. I have to find out what's a word to have from 18 to whenever you die. But that's where I'm going. Advanced directives, illness navigation, grief, anticipatory grief, post-grief, bereavement, end of life support. That's where I'm going. But others out there, they just want to do grief. That's fine. They want to do companionship. That's fine. Some just want to do advanced life, advanced care directives, the living will. That's fine. Pick your niche and bloom. Feel free to reach out to me. I don't have all the answers, but I love collaborating. I love brainstorming. And you just make my day if you put in the comments below, what do you want to hear about next time? Thank you so much. Take care and bye.